This is the lightest DSLR camera in the world. Released few years back, it's a good candidate to take your photography and videography hobby and skills a step forward at a very reasonable price. Taking a product and stacking it with the best features available doesn't guarantee its success. Not far away from cameras, phones like Xiaomi Ultra and OnePlus has some of the best technologies on the planet, but are still not able to dominate the market like Apple and Samsung, who have perfected the art of smartphones. This is the result of experience, millions of users, and customers' feedback, and a proof that bigger is not always better. I think Canon, although lost some of its grip on the camera stronghold in the past few years, is doing a similar job to what Samsung and Apple are doing. They use their experience to produce simple and effective products, and the Canon 250D is their way of showing it. Stick around. The Canon 250D is a product that fit the description I just mentioned. It has one or two very good features, but it works. The experts give the camera an 80% rating, but for my use case, I would give it a much higher score. This camera is classified as advanced amateur camera. Usually, when you have a product that sits between two categories, it does neither of the two. But in this case, this camera really does give you the best of both worlds, amateur and pro. It has the advanced stuff that a pro would need, like manual control, and it does it without complicating the experience for the average user. And this is where it truly shines. Now, the experts only mentions two pros and cons, and I would go a step further and give you a whole list of things that you could potentially love or hate depending on your needs. Released in April of 2019, may sound like a lot, but in the camera world, this is like 1 or 2 generations old, which is not very old. I spoke about this camera being categorized as advanced amateur, and I want to quickly show you how Canon categorized their cameras. Point and shoot, which allows anyone to capture beautiful images by simply pointing the camera at the subject and clicking the shutter button. Bridge camera, somewhere between point and shoot and an interchangeable lens camera. It has a large zoom range, a viewfinder, and allows for some manual control over settings. It's ideal for someone who has just graduated from point and shoot. DSLR. This more serious type of camera is best known for delivering remarkably sharp and spectacular images. It produces beautiful background bokeh and even high-resolution videos with the help of their advanced sensors, manual settings, and wide range of interchangeable lenses. There are two types of DSLRs, full frame or 35mm and a crop sensor or APS-C. And last but not least, mirrorless cameras. They are the latest in the professional camera world. They're basically more compact DSLRs without the internal mirror that reflects light onto the sensor. The 250D is a DSLR with a mirror, as you can see here when you take off the lens. It's not bleeding edge, but also not an entry-level camera despite the low price tag of just $600. In the price you get both the body and the lens, which is a steal in my opinion. Canon has a weird way of naming their cameras. To put it simply, the smaller the digit, the better and more expensive the camera is. Now let's talk about the design. This is my first Canon DSLR camera. Most cameras I used in the past were Sony cameras. Having used the Canon for almost a month now, I'm absolutely loving it. Fantastic feeling and a great texture. Ergonomically speaking, I think Canon does it better. Although Sony cameras look better in my opinion, Canon does better when it comes to grip and comfort, and even buttons placement. The buttons are a tad easier to locate and they're placed like you would expect them to be. Even when you're using it for the first time, it doesn't take too long for you to get used to it. And this is what I meant earlier by experience. Canon knows what they're doing. Specifications. It has cropped sensor with a size of 1.06 inches. It can shoot 4K videos in 25 frames per second compared to its predecessor, the 200D, that can only shoot at 180p 60 frames per second. The screen is a full touch screen and very responsive. You can even do pinch to zoom and it works really well. No zoom via buttons, only manual zoom. Even if the lens supports it, the camera doesn't. It charges via micro USB and it has support for external monitor via mini HDMI. You also have an external mic option and can even pair it with a pair of headphones. It's very lightweight, making it very suitable for top-down shots for product viewing. The battery is amazing. I was able to capture 100 photos and almost an hour and a half worth of footage, and I still had 25% left on the battery. The screen goes to sleep quickly to save battery, which works great, but can be annoying sometimes as you have to press the shutter button every time you want to wake up the screen. It features a viewfinder, which I was never a fan of, especially that my main camera, the Sony ZV-E10, doesn't have one. But now that I have tried it, I can understand why it's a nice feature to have. It also has a neat feature that's called sensor cleaning. This happens internally every time you turn off the camera. The camera mechanically shakes lightly to dust off any dust particles that are stuck on the sensor. Now let's talk about the pros. In no particular order, these are all the things that I find useful. Not just because Canon says it's good, but because I genuinely find them useful. I'll have to be quick because the list is a bit long. Ergonomics. It feels fantastic in the hand. Compared to the Sony cameras, they feel grippier and a lot more comfortable to hold. The button placement is on point and it's very easy to remember. They're also well spaced, preventing you from clicking the wrong button. Battery. It's simply amazing. Compared again to the Sony, it can shoot twice as much, and coupled with the aggressive power saving mode, it can last longer on standby mode. The camera turns the screen off just after a minute of no use, and I never had an issue with the battery because I forgot to turn off my camera. Interchangeable lenses. Now this is a huge W in my book. At this price point, you don't normally get an interchangeable lens option, and it's one of the main reasons I would much rather get this camera versus a point and shoot or a bridge camera that has fixed lenses. Flip screen. Fantastic for vlog video style. The only issue is the focus is slow, which we will cover in the cons. Touch screen. You can even pinch to zoom versus something like the Sony where you can only touch to focus and you're crippled with the navigation D-pad. It's very responsive and make the user experience very enjoyable. Articulating screen. This will serve you great if you intend to use the camera for vlogging, and coupled with its lightweight, it's also great for top-down shots and the screen makes it easy to see what you're filming. Weight. Great for prolonged shooting sessions and fantastic for travel. External mic. Now, as per my experience, no camera mic is good, even if it's designed for vlogging like the Sony ZV-E10. So the option to have an external microphone is always nice. The Canon is no exception. The mic is mediocre at best, but you do have the ability to have an external mic. Also, the speakers on the Canon are far better than the Sony, which make reviewing your footage a lot more fun. EOS utility, which is basically a way to save on a webcam and another reason why this camera is value for money. EOS utility is a software that allows you to use your Canon camera as a webcam. The free version only allows for 720p resolution, but it's better than most 4K webcams that I have tried. Great connectivity. You got built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. This is great again for all kinds of scenarios, like if you're operating alone or you want to do a family group photo, quality check, and so on. 4K max video resolution. Now this is standard, but it's important to list so you know that no compromises were made, as the $600 price tag might make some people question it. Time-lapse recording. Again, standard stuff, but I had to put this one in because my main camera, the Sony ZV-E10, doesn't have that option. Now let's talk about the cons. The list is shorter, which itself is a pro. Again, experts find two issues with it, which is no OIS or image stabilization and no weather sealing. For me, it's only the OIS or lack thereof that I'm not a fan of. Weather sealing, not so much. Now let me add my list of cons or things that I didn't necessarily enjoy. No 120 or 60 frames per second. The highest frame rate you can do is 50 and it's limited to full HD. This camera is good for still photos, landscape videos and vlogs, but not necessarily good for fast moving objects or if you wish to get some slow-mo footage. I don't find myself often shooting fast moving objects, but it would have been a bonus as I can always integrate them in my YouTube videos. At 4K, you're limited to 25 frames per second. No charging via cable. Although the battery life itself is outstanding, you can't charge the battery in the camera. Whenever you run out, you must take off the camera from its compartment and charge it separately using a charging dock. Third-party batteries are fairly cheap and solve the problem, but the idea of buying a $600 camera is you don't want to end up spending on accessories. I would also recommend picking up a coupler as it can give you unlimited shooting time for just $15. The kit lens. Kit lens is basically a jargon for a stock lens that comes with the camera. Now I'm not super impressed with it, but it's fairly typical of kit lenses. Although the kit lens is okay, it leaves much to be desired as a good lens will make a world of difference. I tried the 50mm f1.8 lens and the photos were stunning. The kit lens is not entirely bad, it just doesn't take low light photos, which is typical for most kit lenses. The good news is that it's an interchangeable lens. It's future-proof and has room to improve if you're willing to spend a little more. Slow focus. Now this can be really annoying, but I learned to work with it. It only took me one bad video on my first day of shooting to realize the issue, and I work my way around it. A good lens will definitely improve this and potentially fix it altogether. Just pay attention to the beginning of your video. If you can get it to focus in the beginning, it will stay in focus. Now, just for full disclosure, this is not something that happens regularly. I have checked reviews of this camera before purchasing and most reviewers didn't even mention it. Perhaps I've gotten used to the Sony autofocus, which in turn can make the Canon autofocus seem slow. Make sure that the servo autofocus option is turned on, as this will improve autofocus drastically. If I missed any features, let me know in the comments section. And do you agree with the list of pros and cons? And what's your experience? That's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.